Coming to you from the Malace TV studios in Troy, Michigan, this is the Malace Cast.
All right, welcome back to the Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR. I'm LJ.
I'm Sarah.
And today we've got a ton to talk to you about, but before we do, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, as well as our pages on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Every time you like and subscribe, I give someone a promotion. Wow.
You're feeling generous today.
I'm so generous. Yeah, I promoted myself several times already today.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, I have that ability, you know. So, Sarah, what are we talking about today, and who do we got with us?
Well, we decided new year, new you, we talk about all that stuff, but new job might be the next step for some folks, and we just happen to have a couple of those here today. Richard, who's with our talent acquisition team, who just took over as a lead, and Chris, who is now in our sales department in a business development type role. Do you have an actual title, or
you can call me whatever you want?
King of the universe?
King of the universe.
I like it.
Great. Well, Richard, why don't you just kind of give us a little background about your experience here at Malace and when you got promoted and what you were doing before?
Yeah. So I came in about a year and a half ago. I was came in as a talent acquisition specialist. Chris was actually my team lead. Did recruiting. Didn't come off as the best recruiter or as the strongest one, but I was able to be coached up by my team lead and became very successful in that regard. And then was offered a promotion.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. Whitburn, how about you?
Well, I've been here for about 20 years now.
We can tell.
Yep. So I started off as an intern. I was still wrapping up school at Northwood. Continued to do that my senior year. And then once I finished, came back here, did a full-time recruiting role. After the first year and a half, maybe going on 2 years, started to get my feet wet in account management and did that for a little while. And then about, a year or so ago, a little over a year, we introduced the team lead. So started off with that and built the team up. I think at one point we had 7, maybe even 8 people on the team. And this year, I've been wanting to get into sales, so took the natural route, and here we are.
I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Sarah, you were promoted a while back, not recently, but you were a recruiter and now you're account manager and,
I feel like in this industry in particular, you have to kind of take those steps. You got to know how to recruit. You got to know how to manage accounts. You got to know how to manage people and so on. So, it's a natural progression that we're always happy to do around here when we notice talent. So I don't think it was necessarily like a surprise for anyone that either of you guys stepped into a new role and got promotions, but what were some surprises that you had when you actually were like, okay, well, I'm a team lead now. I'm responsible for these little angels here.
Sweet little angels.
That they are. No, the thing that surprised me the most getting the team was just the difference in everyone's, strengths and weaknesses. You work alongside everyone and you kind of hear what goes on, but you're kind of focused on your own thing because, you have a job to do yourself. You're recruiting, you're focused, you're dialed in, and then you realize that you have a team to kind of manage and kind of see what's going on with them. Someone may be a little bit stronger in different aspect, or someone may need a little bit more coaching, or so just understanding each person individually was pretty huge for me.
Yeah, and I always thought it was kind of interesting because, before you were promoted to the team lead, you were on the team with the people that you're currently leading, so that had to be an interesting dynamic going from being, basically their co-worker to being their manager.
Being a friend.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And now you have to find that switch where it's like, hey, I'm your friend still. We're still okay. We're still cool.
Yeah.
We can go out to lunch and we can do all those things, but I sit in a meeting and I kind of see what's going on behind the scenes and the things that, I need to, convey or bring you up to speed about, we need to watch what we're doing. We need to be focused at times,
Right.
We can't play rock, paper, scissors during power hours and things like that, so, we just got to stay focused, and it's definitely a different role, different dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Whitburn, you went from managing people within our corporate office to actually going out and finding new clients and sales. Same question to you. Was any big surprises when you first got into the role?
It's still pretty fresh, but yeah, as far as like the challenges, it's, identifying the right companies that, we could, benefit each other and we could provide value to. And it kind of interlaps with being a team lead. It's more so finding the right time management and, identifying the right activities that are going to be beneficial for you versus the ones that, although they may seem beneficial, they're not actually helping you.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's a different dynamic in the sense that, I always thought this was because I'm in sales now as well. So going from being in recruiting where you're offering jobs to people and then going and talking to potential clients where, you're basically trying to get them to buy a service from you. There's a totally different kind of feel, kind of dynamic to those conversations, So for me, I know it was a little bit different. Sarah, what about you? I mean, any thoughts that you want to add to this?
One of the things that I found, as I've kind of moved through different roles throughout my career is, it's easy to say this is the black and white way to manage things. This is right and wrong and whatever. But the good managers are the ones who figure out that gray area and understand how to translate that to their team. Understand how to, exactly like you said, to be able to talk to them at their level because they're different than you. And everybody kind of always has this mentality, whether it's, your ego or whatever, of like, well, I'm doing it this way. It must be the best way because it works. But your best way and my best way might be completely different. So being able to humble yourself and, take on the mantle of like, I'm going to go on their level of things and I'm going to bring them to wherever I am or however it has to work to help them get to their goals and help them get the next promotion, kind of like you were able to with Richard, and just kind of coach them up to be the best that they can be, but be who they are authentically and not just a carbon copy of you moving forward.
Right.
You and I have worked together forever. We're very different people.
Same, but different for sure.
I would agree. Same, but different.
Yeah.
But we have, we care about each other enough and respect each other enough to get on the same page with each other, even if it's a completely different page than what we want to be on.
Well, I have to be nice to you so you don't embarrass me on the podcast.
That's how I like it.
She's got like a whole black file of things, but
Let me tell you more.
But I totally agree, and I think a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned are really qualities of being a leader. And I think having that ability to identify who on your team has their strengths and their weaknesses, as well as being self-aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, can really make the difference and really earn you some of that respect from not only your peers but the people that are working directly under you.
Chris, what would you say? Was there anything in Richard in particular as you had him on your team that you were like, I see him moving into the next step, or was there a moment of it, or?
Yeah, and I see something in everybody, and that's kind of one of the goals as, a manager. You want to make sure that your team, because everybody starts off on a different foot, you want to be able to relate to each person and, provide them the, like set personal goals and really get to relate to them in order to help them become the best version of themselves. And, Richard, he was very coachable in that regard, and I could just see that, in terms of he's really good communicator. He gets along well with everyone, and he gives off a lot of positive energy. I'm not going to toot your horn a whole lot. But,
In the end.
Yeah, you can stop me, whatever. But,
Keep going, buddy.
Yeah, so, I knew that he was going to be the right person to pass the torch to because, I think he has what it takes to lead a team and help them become better versions of themselves.
I can tell you one thing that I recognized. I've never actually told you this before, but when I'm sitting there and I hear, Richard, and everybody's coming to you with their questions. Obviously, they're looking to you as a person who either knows the answer, knows where to find the answer. Everybody was always they gravitated towards you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Blushing here. No, I guess I've always been that type of person that I want to get everybody incorporated. I remember being that kid in school, and I didn't want to see the kid over there not playing with everybody. It's like, no, I have my friends and we're playing basketball or whatever. It's like, no, hey man, let's go get the guy over there too, man. Be incorporated and communicate with that person, and that has just followed me throughout my working years. I'm always just cool with everyone. I'm always, down to earth. I feel like I could connect with anyone, and it was cool having Bernsey as my lead, because, outside of recruiting, it's like, hey man, what are you into? You know, we're talking sports, you know, he's getting married soon, you know, I have a wife, you know, like it was just, we connected to each other first. Yeah. And I feel like that's huge when you have a team of people that you're trying to manage. You have to connect with those people, you know, individually.
Right.
So, you know, being able to, you know, have that knack, it was just, you know,
yeah, no, that's awesome.
It just fits.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, I think we're in the people business, everything. And I think we've said this probably a million times now, you know, everything in this business is based on relationships. And that goes for our internal office as well. But something I want to talk about here is, you know, I've heard, especially like with raising kids, you know, you hear about nurture versus nature. You know, you'll see the parents that are, you know, chasing their kid around with wet naps and wiping every speck of dirt. And then you see the other parents who are just letting them mud wrestle. Sarah, were you a nurturer or were you just throwing your son to the wolves?
Well, I am the wolf.
Oh, that's right. So he's already been thrown in and devoured.
He was born. No, I think, and you could probably attest to this too. It's a little bit of both. Yeah. You gotta have. They need structure. Everyone needs structure. Right. But they also need room to grow into who they actually are. And if you're constantly trying to make them what you want them to be, it's just gonna end up in rebellion. So you gotta let them become who they are. And it's very much the same when you have people that are reporting to you. You know, you can't just make them a cookie cutter.
Cookie cutter.
You can't just make them a cookie cutter version of you because your success came in a different way than what their success is going to come in. So you have to nurture who they are and help them to be their best selves.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is in order for not only the people on your teams to be successful, but those leaders and those managers that are in charge of them, they really need a strong support system, you know, and they're going to need strong backing from the organization. And to me, if you're getting a promotion and you're at a company where you're not getting that kind of organizational support from the top levels, you're being set up for failure, essentially.
Yeah. So if you fail, your team's going to fail.
Exactly. So now it's a trickle down effect, and I think you know, having a strong support system from corporate and from the organization is just imperative to ensure that you can be successful overall.
Mm-hmm. So what would be, you know, since we're talking about support systems and everybody likes things a little bit different, what would be some ways that you guys like to be supported?
Or support your team, for that matter.
Yeah.
I want to hear them out. You know, I want to listen to my team. I want to kind of see where they're coming from. I feel like I was supported by the executive management team very well. Built relationships with, you know, LJ or the vice president of business development. You know, those things are huge. When you feel that love, you know what I mean, that support, that trust from them, it snowballs, you know. So you want to do that for your team, you want to be there for your team, and you want to, you know, like you said, get on their level, you know what I mean, like hear them out, hear their stories. I think that's huge.
Yeah,
kind of going off of that, you know, we are in like the relationship business, so if you're not genuine with everybody, it's probably not going to work out. You can't have a transactional relationship, you know, with your team. So and even, you know, with sales, you have to, you know, you want to listen to what people's problems are and genuinely be able to help them. So again, being able to help people become the best versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that's because, you know, in sales, we want to not only be a partner, but a trusted advisor to these companies that we're working with. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're only successful if they're successful. And I always reiterate that when I'm talking to clients is, hey, you know, I know we have markups. We're a business. There's going to be, you know, rates associated with any service. But at the end of the day, I can only charge those rates if you guys are finding the people and able to kind of implement your strategy moving forward. Otherwise, we're both going to be sitting there with no money in our bank accounts, right?
So when you guys first took over in your new roles, again, I get it. It's pretty brand new, but you've seen other people do it ahead of you. And what were kind of some things that you saw maybe Burnsy do or whatever that when you did step into the role helped you get up to speed a little bit quicker? Were there any best practices that you guys saw that, you know, somebody who might be in your shoes just about to get a promotion or recently promoted, they might be able to benefit from, hey, I saw this and really I jumped right on it and took it as my own?
Yeah, so the best practice or the thing that jumped out at me was the structure that he held for our team. We would meet Mondays and Fridays to go over what orders we had and you know, the necessary things that we need to do to be successful. And I think that structure led to my personal success. And I felt like it was great for the team. So, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of feeding off that. I know I'm in sales now, but just moving on from the team lead, and it's still a newer role. A lot of it was getting the foundation set up, so building certain trainings and typing out various things. If somebody's struggling with questioning strategies or just overall structure on how many phone calls they're making and tracking certain data, being able to see where they're at and having something prepared already, which in the beginning it took a long time to, you face this problem, you're like, okay, well, I know that I'm gonna have to train other people on this, so I should probably get something like more formally, I guess, set up there. So just a lot of different trainings. I would say that's a best practice, because one of the struggles or one of the challenges of becoming a manager is you still have your own goals and objectives that you want to get done, and you want to be able to, if you're setting goals for other people, you still want to set goals for yourself and have the time to achieve them. So you have to do certain things to, take away from, if somebody had a problem here, it might take them 30 minutes or an hour to help them. Or if I had something typed up and well thought out, I could give that to them, and, it might take 5 minutes. And if they have questions, they can come back. But a big thing was like the time management.
Yeah, and assessing, I feel like that folds into assessing strengths and weaknesses as well, and understanding how people want to be communicated with in whatever way it is. I know that one of the things I, for a brief time, was kind of helping out with the team lead position, and I had two people who worked very much like me, but they were also very new. Well, one of them was very new to it. So how can I get her up to the speed that she needs to? What are her strengths and weaknesses? But having to do that with an entire team, I had two people at the time. You guys have, a couple right now. You were up to 8 at one point. That's a lot to juggle. Did you find yourself kind of overwhelmed when you had all those reporting to you? Is there like a sweet spot where you felt comfortable with?
I think the sweet spot would probably be like 6 people, but I like a challenge, and you always got to push the limits and see what you're capable of. I was capable of it, but if you get too many people, it's like you might as well just get another person to become a team lead in that regard. But right. Still very enjoyable.
Yeah. What about you? Are you sitting pretty with your 4, or is that too many?
Not sitting pretty. But no, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to just understand where everyone is. Once me becoming a team lead, I was on the team that now I'm currently managing. Mm-hmm. So it's a different relationship now, and I'm seeing more behind the scenes of what's actually going on with their productivity, their activity, everything. So it's like, seeing where people are, trying to figure out where you can help and how you can help, using the resources that we have that my team lead provided when he was doing the lead role and trainings and things like that. So it's coming along. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm still getting used to it.
It is nice around here that we do lean on each other a lot for stuff. While you were talking, I was just thinking, he did spend some time with each of the team leads when he came in. Everybody has just a little bit different of a style in what they do. So you feel like you're finding your style now, or you're a little bit away from it still?
I'm getting there. I feel like I'm finding it, because getting to know everyone on a different level, you know what I mean, as their lead and their friend, you still want to take time to, just kind of fill everyone out. Everyone it needs to be managed, should be managed differently, because everyone's different. Right. You know what I mean? So you got to find that, that how to connect with that person, mm-hmm. and how to connect with, the next person. It may not be the same. You got to switch that up.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, everyone wants to get promoted, right? And something I think people need to make sure they do beforehand is really get a full grip, a full understanding of the responsibilities and what they actually have to do in this new role. I think of Michael Scott from The Office, where he was the top salesman at Dunder Mifflin, so he was promoted to be the manager, but he never acted like the manager. He's running around, he's playing paintball, he's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I think if you're not prepared mentally and totally understand where you're going to be in that role, you're gonna have a rough time adapting to those changes.
Yeah, or you're going to be Michael Scott.
Yeah, or you're gonna, yeah.
And nobody wants Michael Scott.
Right.
I will say though, the Michael Scott example, being great at sales, let's say great at sales or great at whatever it may be, doesn't also, assume, or it doesn't mean that you're going to be a great leader for other people, because you have to be a people person at the end of the day. If let's say you have a really strong work ethic and I have the most sales out of everybody and I'm making the most revenue, and then my team comes and, some of the people on my team don't have as strong a work ethic as me. If I'm not able to take that well, and maybe I just get upset and I'm like, well, why aren't they working as hard as I am? I did all this, but I'm not able to have like the words that I say resonate with them and be able to understand them for the struggles that they're facing. It's probably just not going to work out.
Right. No, I agree. And it's just one of those things where the best, I always hear the example of like, and my dad always brings this up of the top salesman becomes a sales manager, and then the rest of the executive management team a few months later freak out because all the sales numbers are down. Well, you just took your number one salesperson and turned him into a manager. So, obviously that's, you're not going to have as many sales in the future, and I think you have to find that balance of people who are performing well, but are also have those intangible qualities of being a leader. Not everybody's made out to be it,
and not everybody wants to be it. They might want to be promoted, like you said, because I think everybody wants success in some way, but they don't necessarily want to manage people, or maybe they shouldn't manage people, however you want to look at it. But that doesn't mean that they can't move up the ladder, or almost create something for yourself in what works for you. I don't want to manage people, but I am really good at this, and show your potential in other ways to promote yourself before you're promoted.
Yeah, and just overall, people just are not big fans of change, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And you may have an opportunity where they can, either make more money or have more responsibilities, but that person may just be comfortable where they're at, and that's okay too. We can't all be, ready to move up the corporate ladder, every single one of us. It's some people are comfortable where they're at, and some people are exactly where they want to be. And I think trying to force promotions or force that upward mobility on those people is also a recipe for disaster.
Oh, completely agree. Yes.
So when I think about what a good leader and some of the great habits that they've had, I'm somebody who really appreciates like direct communication. Have you run into a situation where you've got somebody that's just kind of skirting around the issue? And I think part of being a good manager, and at least something that I'm privy to, is that direct line of communication and building trust, because I know that when they're telling me something, it's the whole truth, and you guys have both had a little bit different experience at different companies. Me and Chris have only worked here essentially. And what are your thoughts on what you view as some good habits from people you've worked with, or even if you want to talk about some bad habits that you've seen at previous companies?
Yeah, I think learning what we don't want to do is every bit as important as what we do want to do. Those people with closed doors or who just aren't available, or that you feel like you're really making them mad when you walk in their office. Like, hey, I've got a quick question. And then they basically shoo you away. Yeah. I never wanted to be that person, whether it's as a leader or just as somebody who works next to anybody. I know I tend to, be quiet in my own space, but I want people to feel like they can come to me with things. I learned that by being alienated by old bosses that were like, I don't have time for you. So that's definitely a I don't want to be that I've turned into good. Do you have any of those yourself?
Oh, yeah. I've had managers in the past that are just unapproachable, and like you said, they kind of shoo you away. And it's like, hey, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to actually grasp what it is I'm here to do, and you won't teach me. And it's like, dude, how frustrating is that? So you have to fight with that, and you lean on others, and being micromanaged, it's like, come on, man, like let me, give me time, give me a little bit of time, give me a little bit of
leash?
Yes.
Yeah.
Leash, let the leash go, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, let me get there. And it builds confidence within that employee and that person. So you kind of have to. Everyone's different. You got to have a little bit of a balance, man. So I've met some managers that weren't so nice.
Right.
So.
Well, the micromanaging thing for me, I mean, I'm a big believer in, I hire people to do a job, and you hired me to do a job. Let them do their job, and I hate being micromanaged, and it's exhausting to try and micromanage somebody. Are you kidding me? Like, that is just not my thing. I'm a big believer in letting people, until someone messes up or does something, wrong, let them do their job, What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I love micromanaging.
Yeah. That's how you got where you are.
I have analytics on everything. No, but I think that's part of like building the trust is, you set the expectations with the people on your team, and then, you let them do that. And granted, I don't micromanage, but if somebody, you give them, because not every situation is going to work out perfectly. It's just not the world we live in. But if somebody were to not perform well after, you let them have, their own space, then I'm going to have to intervene a little more and have a thorough conversation, see what they need help with. And, like I said earlier too, I like to manage my time and make it so it doesn't take as long for certain things. But if somebody's genuinely struggling, I'm going to go through something thoroughly and help to make sure that they understand that. But, I guess just overall though, like I like letting people have their own space. I think, they don't want somebody breathing down their neck, and some people can kind of like crack under pressure like that. So and again, everybody has different style, but I don't like micromanaging by any means. But
I do think that there's some to what you said about getting more thorough if they're struggling is you don't know what they don't know. So being able to kind of identify like, oh, I didn't even realize that you didn't know you were supposed to do this, or that slipped through the cracks in training. Well, now you're cognizant of it, and it doesn't mean you're necessarily micromanaging them as much as just like, hey, I wasn't aware of this before. Let's get on the right track moving forward. You had not been doing it before, so I'm going to get you in the habit of doing it now. And people resist change. Right. We all do. It's not even just people who report to you, but making that safe space to not feel like an idiot because you didn't know something, and just be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, moving forward, and trusting that they're going to make that adjustment, but verifying later. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, as a leader, you have to understand where people are. Right. And that's huge. If someone doesn't know something, you have to get them there. And that's your responsibility. Right. So you have to take, ownership in that. It's your team. You have to give them the information, the resources that they need to be successful. It's not, you can't point the finger and say, well, you did something wrong. Right. You have to ask yourself the question. Does that person know what they're actually supposed to be doing? Right. You know what I mean? Do they have every tool and resource that they actually need to be successful?
Right. Well, and a big thing that I like to do is, just ask them, what are you struggling with? What can I help you with? Let me know. I'm a big believer, and Sarah, you know this, and you are as well, quite frankly, of consistent training. You think about that. You think about your first week or 2 weeks on a job, and you're being hounded with every type of information about the processes within the company, the procedures, how to do this, how to do that, the technology, the software. I mean, it's just like insane. Mm-hmm. And it is very easy after dealing with that for a week to maybe have a few of those things slip through the cracks. Right. So I think one of the biggest things you could possibly do is ask the person that reports to you, what can I help you with? Where are you struggling? And let's figure it out, and let's work together. No harm, no foul. Just tell me what we need to work on, and we will.
Yeah, right? and another great thing about this team is if you do have somebody on your team that say they're struggling with, I just don't know, everybody keeps telling me no. Well, let me introduce you to Chris Whitburn, who can sit and talk to you about, overcoming objections and things like that, because he's highly skilled in it, because he's been trained in it. Whereas other people might struggle with the technology, like you said. And it's like, well, here, let's sit down with Bronson, who's worked here for 1,000,000 years and knows everything back and forth, and he can sit down and instruct you. So it's not just like your team, your responsibility. You can reach out for other resources here, and you'll be a resource eventually too. Right. That's one thing I always tell people in training is, you're the new person right now, but I want you to feel comfortable leaning your chair back and saying, hey, I don't know how to do this, to the person next to you. because eventually you're going to be that person, and I want you to be able to feel comfortable helping the person next to you, which is, it all folds into the collaborative culture that we're trying to have around here or whatever. But we have so many resources for things that, you don't want your people to feel like they can't come to you and say, hey, I'm really struggling here. They've got a safe space to land because they've been that safe space for somebody else at some point too. So it's that collaboration. It's that having each other's backs. It's that, like, don't ridicule someone because they don't absorb things as quick as you do and things like that. All those speak to great leadership. All those speak to things that we try to cultivate around here.
Right.
And I just think, like, sometimes it's nice to sit back and have these conversations and be like, okay, we are actually doing a lot of things right, which I'm sure the people, when they're able to have conversations like this too, it's like, oh, okay, this is a safe space to land. Like, I do feel okay asking questions, and that's how you get better.
Exactly.
Well, and I think at the flip side of that, another bonus is that when you're saying, hey, let's go to Chris for this or go to Richard for that, you're also highlighting that employee, and that makes everybody feel good as well. And I know we actually just implemented our new MVP, Malace MVPs, and we're doing 3 employees a month, and you've got the M stands for who the management picked, the V is the value pick, and the P is the peers pick, which is voted on by everyone in the company. So I think having little things like that and trying to recognize the top performers and that automatically sends a message to everyone in the company, like, hey, if I need help doing something, here's 3 of our top stars. And I know for the month of January we had Heather, Kendall, and Helen were our MVPs. So that was really cool, and it's something I think we're really excited about starting this year.
I'll tell you, Heather and I do basically the same job. And then the comments that came through about things that people like about Heather, I was like, that's absolutely her. Like, we're very different, but, like, that's absolutely her. I get why people like that. Maybe I should be a little bit more like that. Kendall in particular.
Yep.
Kendall stepped up and took over while one of our payroll girls is on maternity leave. She's been working, longer hours than anybody would really like to, just because of, taking on the new workload. And she would have done it without the recognition, but that gave us, a point to stop and say, like, hey, Kendall, we see you. We think you're doing a great job. And she's phenomenal.
Right.
And same thing with Helen. She's actually off-site. She works in Texas. Helen is fantastic. We all want to put her on our orders all the time.
Right.
But she's not in the office with us. So she doesn't get to do a lot of the fun stuff that we do. She doesn't get to bond with us other than, like, the occasional phone call. But so I'm sure she wasn't thinking that she was going to get picked for anything.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, hey, Helen, you have great value, and we all see it. And I mean, that's got to make her feel like $1 million. So,
Right.
Whether it's company wide or just your manager, even just coming and saying, like, hey, you did a really good job. You did this one thing real good. Everybody likes to hear that kind of appreciation, but we need to give that appreciation more. So I'm really glad that we're doing that.
Right. Chris, when are you going to become an MVP?
Well, I think I got cheated out of that one. We'll save that for another time.
Right.
Yeah, but I do think it is important, especially with like the millennials and just moving forward. Information's being transferred faster and faster. People like to see continuous updates and be told that they're doing well, and I think that kind of goes along with being a lead of a team. Just having more frequent conversations with people and making sure that they're comfortable and being recognized for the work that they do. One of the, not somewhat related, but one of the things that, like, a fun challenge that I faced was finding out what motivates people to speak their language, to get them to,
that's a great point.
Yep. So I would ask them straight up, well, what motivates you? And, some people would say I'm financially motivated. Some would say I'm family oriented. I like making my family proud. So then you can kind of speak in terms of their wants and needs. And then again, aside from setting business, professional goals, I'd set personal goals. So someone wants to buy a house. Okay, well, let's break it down. How much is that going to cost? How much do you want to put down on it? And then we can break it down on a quarterly, a monthly. So we'll set annual goals, and then and they just trickle down. So then eventually we know what we're supposed to do on a week-to-week basis, a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
how much we would need to make in commission, things like that, and tying it all together, you can kind of see, when someone has a definitive, purpose and goals in mind, you can kind of see the spark ignited in them, and they know what they're supposed to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
and they appreciate your support in getting them there.
Right. Yeah, we can tell why Chris got promoted. Holy cow! No, I love that. I love being able to align the professional and personal goals, because at the end of the day, I mean, some people love their job, some people are indifferent, and some people don't necessarily like it at all. I know everyone here at this company loves their job. I know every moment of every day. But I know that there are people out there that maybe are there just to collect a paycheck. And, as a manager, whether it's here or anywhere, identifying that drive, that goal of theirs, and then saying, this is how we do it while you're at work, essentially is really cool. So hats off for you. Hats off to you for that, because I think that's very, very smart. Anything you guys want to add on?
Well, to the point of the MVP and whatnot, I feel like it's a beautiful and special thing when you're recognized for the good that you do.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? As opposed to only getting a conversation with a manager about what you did wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I've been in those situations, other companies, or experience from, friends, other coworkers where it's like, man, they just harp at me for all of the wrong, but I swear I was doing some good. You know what I mean? It's like, so I love the fact that we have the program set up. I love the fact that we are all positive. We all have each other's backs, and we all, support each other, and we get recognized for it.
Yeah.
I got promoted because I was recognized for being an awesome person, loving everyone in the company, being there for everybody, supporting everybody. So I feel like it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you don't want to be working for a company that has an LVP, a least valuable person. That would be
exactly.
That would be a gut punch, right? Yeah, that would be rough. That would be rough. Anything else that we want to hit on? Best habits, leadership, anything else that you got, Sarah?
One of the questions that I like to ask people when I'm interviewing them is, not necessarily here because it's, a little personal, but like, who are some good leaders you've had in your past, whether it's, coaches or a teacher you had that you liked, or, pastor at your church, whatever it is. Who that lets you know what their leadership style is, or what they kind of gravitate towards, and for as far as growth. But I always kind of, as I got older, I wanted to be that person that people were like, well, Sarah was this and this and this, because I want to be that person that people can lean on. So when they think like, who is my favorite leader, when they think of me, or if they think of me, I want it to be for X, Y, Z. So then you kind of figure out who you want to be as a leader.
Right.
So people think of you, because I've actually heard it before, like, yeah, Chris actually asks us our personal goals. And I'm like, good for him, man. That's a great thing to do. That most people, it's not that they don't care, they just don't think of it, because you're focused on, making sure you're hitting your metrics and things like that. So good for you to be that guy who's like, I care about you.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, my first interview question to people is if they like dogs, and if they don't, we are throwing them out of the building.
No,
all right,
no room for
I'm
that
sorry,
here.
Donnie has tenure. Okay, I get another Frenchie in here, they're going to unionize.
Yeah,
you know?
Talk about employee of the month.
Right.
He's just the permanent employee of
like
every day.
27 months and counting. But no, I think this is all great information. And so before we wrap up, how about we just go around the table? One piece of advice that you would give somebody who wants to get a promotion. So who would want to start with that?
I'll start. I'll say act as if, you got to treat yourself like you're $1 million already, and, you got to exemplify and portray those values. So do the little things right, as far as, becoming an account manager, anything like that, as someone in a higher up position, if you're going to pick the next account manager, you're going to, see somebody that's already doing the little things right, responding to emails late at night, or, just going the extra mile and responding, being professional, the list goes on, but, act as if.
Yeah. Okay. So do the little things. For me, I would say make sure you're communicating your goals and what you're looking for. You can't get, if you make sure when you're talking to your managers or you're talking to the leaders of your organization, you're saying, hey, what can I do to take it to the next level? What can I do to get a promotion? What are you guys looking for in your next team lead or account manager or whatever position that we're talking about. And make sure you communicate that, because you don't want to go under the radar. And the people who are speaking up and saying, hey, I'm here for the company. I want to not only better myself, but better those around me. What do I have to do to take the next steps? You'd be surprised that of the answers you'd get, but you'd also be surprised that, that manager will probably go talk to the rest of the management team and say, hey, Chris just came in here and he's really motivated to take it to the next level. He wants to, what are your guys, and you'll get brought up, so communicate what you're looking for. Would be mine.
Mine would be that you don't have to be a manager to be a leader. That you can genuinely care for and take care of other people, have their backs, communicate with them without having the responsibility of doing so. Just because we're all peers essentially, but I don't have to have anybody that's reporting to me in order to be a good person to the people that I work next to. And I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. It's just who I want to be as a person. So you definitely don't have to have a title to be a leader. Yeah,
I think being coachable and being a good listener, taking everything in, actually taking the information and, getting there. You know what I mean? Like being coached, talking to your managers, talking to your team members, like learning the continuous improvement. Part of that, is how you would take it to the next level. You kind of have to get there yourself and take all the information you can get. You know what I mean? And put it to good use. Use your powers for good.
I mean, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right.
But very good. Well, I think we put together some good information here. Had some good tips. Sarah, do you have any final thoughts? Do you want to wrap it up?
No, thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. So that's going to be it for the Malace Cast. Thanks for joining us today. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, as well as our pages on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Malace Cast, the official podcast of Malace HR. Don't forget to subscribe now to Malace TV, available on YouTube. And we'll see you on our next Malace Cast.
But I sing one more song before I go away.